Quality is guaranteed. Viewer discretion is advised.
And we are back for another episode of Cars and Macabre.
Hello, and this is going to be wild.
It is going to be very disturbing. And we've got a special guest with us today because Reggie has decided that he's going to sit with you.
Yes, well, I am the godmother.
Yeah, and he's breathing really loudly.
It's like a snore. I've got his hair up my nose.
Yeah.
I feel it everywhere.
His hair does get everywhere. So if you hear a weird snoring, that's Reggie.
Yeah, he's just letting you know that he's here.
Exactly.
And he's the most importantest person here.
He is, absolutely. Right, so before we get into anything disturbing, shall we have a catch-up?
Yes, I think we need one. We've been busy bees.
We have been busy bees.
So today, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm sponsored by Petrol Hedonism. The last episode that came out, we said we were going. We've now been, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it was very good. So it was Petrol Hedonism Underground in Wembley. It was only the second show held there.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, well, what did you think? Because it was your first sort of full-on car show.
Well, I did Max Power.
You did Max Power, but Underground is a lot bigger.
Yes.
Isn't it? So...
Yeah, it was really nice because I had, the 2 times I've been to a show with you, I've always had like a job to do.
I did put you to work.
Do you know what? And I don't mind because I love that. And I'm actually fairly good at bullying people. So not bullying people, but PR.
Well, aggressive PR. So Ali, basically for the weekend, was my PR and/or manager.
Yeah, I felt very important. People kept referring to me as your manager. I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, and you worked your butt off for me.
Thank you.
Just kind of getting the word out.
Yeah.
Explaining what we were doing.
And what were you doing?
I was painting a Lamborghini. No. Mark McGann's Lamborghini. So he's on YouTube. I actually don't watch YouTube. I'm rubbish. But he has got a very successful YouTube channel about cars and stuff. And it's his Lamborghini Sturato. And he let me paint it over the 2 days.
Brave man. Well, no, because you're phenomenally talented.
Thank you, but still very brave man. But it had Expel PPF on it, so it meant that basically I could use it as a blank canvas. And then the thing that I kind of liked so much about it was the fact that it was going to be disappearing after a few days because it was only on there for a few days and then it was going to be taken off.
Kind of makes it that more, I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned so much about PPF that weekend.
You did?
You know, as well as talking about you and what you do and everything like that, I was like, yes, so the whole premise. And then I go into some spiel about PPF and he got Gaz there like, yeah, she's doing work.
Literally, Ali was doing all of the things.
I loved it.
Massive shout out to Petrol Hedonism and Expel.
Yes, and thanks for the garms.
Yes. Do you know what? Since we've got that hoodie, I have not stopped wearing it.
It is so comfortable.
It's my favourite hoodie now.
I do have to admit, one of the biggest highlights for me for that weekend was the fact I met Ewan Thomas. Now, people aren't going to get why I'm so excited about that. If you don't know who Ewan Thomas is, he is an amazing sprinter. And one of my favourite memories growing up was watching the athletics with Mum and Rich. Mum would just get so excited, and she really, really likes Ewan Thomas. And I think I turned around to him and was like, I used to watch you when I was little. And then he did a video for Mum and he called her a minx.
It was such a good video. He's such a nice person and he's really into the paranormal as well.
Yeah.
And true crime. So, big shout out to Ewan Thomas.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Lovely people. Lovely people.
I like the car people. They just seem genuine.
Yeah, car people are good people. We've got a good car family. I got my Instagram hacked, which was fun. Oh,
wow, that was a lot.
Yeah, that was really
I was PRing with that as well.
Yes.
Right, this is what you need to do.
Yes, you were. You're very good at PRing things and or people.
Things and or things.
Very aggressively, and it works.
Yeah. Well, guerrilla PR.
Guerrilla PR, exactly. Anything else?
No, just a lot of uni work. We have a very tight deadline for another assignment. So I'm working full time again and trying to do uni, and I'm just very tired.
And doing the podcast.
And doing a podcast. But thank God for you, because you're bashing out the content just so that I can have some breathing space.
And Goober as well.
Well, yeah.
He literally... No, but you give a lot to it. Otherwise, I would be talking to nobody. I'd be talking to the one listener, Tom. That'd be it.
Yeah, we love you, Tom.
I do love you, Tom.
We do it for you, Tom.
Absolutely. Right. So this... Oh, Reg is snoring so loud. I do apologise. This episode is going to have to be a two-parter.
Okay, I quite like a two-parter. That means there's going to be a lot of detail.
Yes, and each episode is going to be long. So this is a very tough case. So all the trigger warnings, anything horrible, terrifying, traumatising is contained within the next two episodes. And like I said, this is two-parter, so you've been warned for both.
Okay.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Right. So, I'm going to start this off by saying that it is well documented that many serial killers experience traumatic childhoods. According to studies, 74% of serial killers suffered from psychological abuse as children and 42% suffered from physical abuse. And while trauma is not an excuse for criminal behaviour, I think it's relevant to mention the theory as I'm starting with this particular serial killer's childhood.
Okay, I mean, I can kind of see it because it's those formative years. Mm-hmm. So that's when I think people are vulnerable and they're susceptible to things that are done and said to them are going to stay with them, and it is going to fuck you up.
Yeah, definitely. It is interesting because it's a very debated theory, and but I just think it's helpful to mention it, especially when I talk about this particular person's childhood. So today I am talking about Theodore Robert Bundy, best known as Ted Bundy, and he was born on November 24th in 1946 in Burlington, Vermont.
Oh, November, baby.
In November, baby.
Just like me.
Exactly. But not like you, though.
No, I'm not Ted Bundy.
No. And according to research, Bundy had a difficult childhood. So his mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, had Ted out of wedlock when she was 22 years old, which at that time...
Big no-no.
...was a no-no. And his illegitimate birth humiliated... I do apologise, Molly's barking background, that's going to happen. So his illegitimate birth humiliated her deeply religious parents, and to hide the fact, Ted was initially raised as their adopted son.
Oh, okay.
And they told him that his birth mother was actually a sister.
Oh, yes, I knew that.
Yeah.
I did know that, yeah.
But Ted saw through the lies, later telling author Anne Rule that he figured out there couldn't be 20 years difference in age between a brother and a sister, and Louise always took care of him. And he said he grew up knowing.
Louise?
Yes, she went by Louise.
Oh, okay.
I should have mentioned the fact that she goes by Louise.
Okay.
And he said that he grew up knowing that she was really his mum.
Oh.
So it's not great to sort of start off life being lied to.
No.
Anyway.
And it's like, why would my mum lie to me?
Yeah. But again, still not an excuse for being Ted Bundy. But on Bundy's birth certificate, his father was listed as unknown. However, there are some theories knocking about that Ted's father might have been Lloyd Marshall, an Air Force veteran. Other sources claim Ted's father is a man named Jack Worthington, and there are also other rumours that his grandfather was also and actually his father.
Oh.
So, again, it's all allegedly.
Yeah.
Because... I mean, the one person that knows is not with us, so she can't really sort of say. But it certainly wasn't a stable place to start. And Bundy's grandmother reportedly suffered from depression and agoraphobia. And his grandfather, who could have also been his father, had a raging temper. Allegedly, he was violent towards animals, employees, and his family members. So there's hard evidence that Bundy experienced physical or psychological abuse as a child.
That kind of shit would ruin you.
Yeah, so sorry, there's no hard evidence to suggest this, but it is a distinct possibility. Mm-hmm. Sort of, you know, the kind of person his grandfather was, and the fact that he could have been his father as well.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a recipe for a disaster.
Yeah.
Not the best start. But that said... I mean, it's like we say, you know, it's a good argument, but it's also not an excuse.
Yeah.
But I think you'll sort of see, sort of talking about Ted Bundy, that, I mean, in my opinion, he was born bad, but I don't think that the childhood really helped him.
Yeah.
You know?
There's that whole argument, you know, can someone be born evil? Or are they made that way? That whole nature nurture
Exactly.
argument.
And it is a fascinating argument,
Yeah.
it really is. And I think as we go on to talk more about him, it'll be interesting to hear your opinion and our one listener's opinion as well. See
Tom.
what Tom
Hi, Tom.
thinks. So at around 3 years old, that is a tot.
That's the thing, like when I try and always...
There's a creepy ice cream van noise in the background, which I feel like that's kind of fitting just for creepiness. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention the fact that we're in our new pod lab.
Oh, fucking hell.
So we're dealing with noises and things we're not used to.
Yeah.
So there we go.
But how amazing does it look? Helen is the architect.
Thank you very much. So right, going back to Bundy. He's 3 years old. Again, 3 years old. He's just so little.
This is the thing, when like you say 3 years old, I picture our niece Robin, and I'm thinking she was such a dot.
Yeah, tiny tot at 3 years old. But Bundy, at 3 years old, his evil streak already started to show when he became fascinated by knives. Yeah, his aunt remembers waking up to find him placing knives around her while she was sleeping. And according to psychiatrist Dr. Dorothy Lewis, only in very seriously traumatised children who have either themselves been victims of extraordinary abuse or have witnessed extreme violence among family members would this kind of behaviour be displayed. It is a bit odd. It's like,
and it kind of seems like ritualistic, placing them around her body as well.
so weird. And can you imagine waking up to a 3-year-old placing
You're right there,
knives
mate.
around you? Like, what the hell?
No. Get the kids some help. Fucking hell.
3 years old that started. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good for. Well, we know what Ted Bundy. Most people know what happened and what he did.
Oh yeah,
but, you know.
absolutely. You'd be hard pushed to find a soul alive that doesn't know who Ted Bundy is and what he did.
No, but interestingly enough, like, when I researched this, I did so much research. I didn't realise the extent of everything, and I kind of wish I didn't, but I know it now. There we go.
And you're sharing the love with
And
me.
I'm sharing the love with you.
Thank you.
And Goobs and our possible one listener. So Bundy's mother, Eleanor Louise Cowell, moved to Tacoma, Washington with her son in 1951, where she married a man named Johnny Bundy. While Ted took his name from Johnny, it was reported that he had a very strained relationship with his stepfather. He was allegedly jealous of his mother's new relationship with him. Ted would act out in public. On one occasion, he had a tantrum and wet his pants.
On purpose.
I
do that too when I have a tantrum.
Yeah. So I mean, it just does sound like a jealousy thing.
Yeah, and he knows what he's doing.
It would seem so. Yeah, it would seem so.
Just imagine walking down the aisle in Tesco and all of a sudden
yelling and then just killing yourself. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, frequently.
Exactly. Young Bundy was also very materialistic. He coveted expensive clothes and belongings and resented the fact his working class stepfather couldn't afford to buy them for him. And Ted even fantasised about being adopted by Roy Rogers and Dale Evans, who were famous actors and singers at the time, and he thought they would give him all the material things he wanted.
I mean, were they poor?
They were working class. They didn't go without food or anything. Yeah. You know, his stepfather and his mother paid bills. He was well looked after, but they certainly weren't spoilt.
What about like when he was living with his grandparents?
Again, no evidence that he went without.
So, because that kind of thing would probably come up with someone that has probably lived a poor they've lived in poverty, and oh, I want the things that I've never had before, so they begin to become sort of more materialistic. So I was just wondering if that was a factor.
No, there's no evidence that he was ever without or they were poor.
Okay.
They're kind of referred to as working class, but certainly not the poorest of the poor. So
give the man a fucking break. He's taking you on.
Well,
during a time when that would have been frowned upon, quite possibly, unless she was a widow.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we're learning more about Bundy.
Yeah.
The fact that has a penchant for knives, and he's materialistic when he's so young, and
he's just Bundy.
Yeah, I mean he was something else. Bundy's relationship with his mother was slightly less tense, but by no means like a fairy tale.
Yeah, I mean it sounds like it was only tense with his stepfather because he was jealous, not because he was a dickhead.
Because he wanted all the things. Yeah. And his stepfather couldn't buy them. She actually had 4 more children, and although he was physically cared for, her attention was divided, and Ted felt quite unloved.
Well, he spent all those years being number bloody 1, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that's what do they call that? He's a narcissist.
Well, we will go into all his mental health issues, and in the next episode.
It's a shopping list of them.
He has many. He also hated the fact that he was illegitimate, and he felt humiliated by the situation, even referring to himself as a bastard. So he's got a real chip on his shoulder about this whole illegitimate thing.
But it's quite weird because most people try and, during the time, try and conceal that fact. You wouldn't go around calling yourself a bastard. No,
but then if you think, such a big thing was made of hiding that fact when he was so young.
It's done the opposite thing.
It's kind of, it seems to have gone the other way. And then although he's now got the stepfather who is caring for him and giving him everything he wants, he's just got this thing kind of in his mind that, he's a bastard.
He is a fucking bastard.
Well, yeah. He's not a nice person. We do not feel bad. I'm talking on behalf of you.
Absolutely.
We do not feel bad about saying awful things about him because he was a terror. He was described as an intelligent, shy child. Ted was bullied at school. One source stated this was because he had a speech impediment. And as Bundy grew up, his behaviour just basically grew darker. A fellow Boy Scout remembered being hit on the head with a stick from behind. Apparently, he also liked to dig holes in the ground, and he would put stakes inside the holes and then cover them up with vegetation like a trap. Oh. And one girl actually fell in one once and really injured her leg.
Bundy, he's a sadistic
he liked to scare people, and he basically showed absolutely no sense of remorse for any of his actions, which another red flag there for me.
Oh, absolutely. That's a control thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. He also began to peer in people's windows. He would steal things and was known to abuse animals.
No.
There is animal cruelty in the next section, which I have really skimmed over. I haven't put a lot of details in, but just trigger warning. Bundy would buy mice at the local pet store and play God by rounding them up and then deciding which ones to kill. And this behaviour showed an early desire to exert control over other living beings. So many red flags.
Yeah.
So many.
But do you know the thing with that is that they always pick people or animals that they can easily have control over and dominate. It's not... you're not really playing God with something that can't fight back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're a coward.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's vile.
Not that you should be trying to do this with anyone, strong, weak, what have you, but you're not all that in a bag of chips, mate.
No, he's just again, so many red flags. So in high school, Bundy didn't make the sports teams. He was a loner and apparently only went on one date, But academically, he was actually doing well. Bundy graduated from the University of Washington with a degree in psychology.
Oh, there we go.
I know. In 1972, and he was accepted to attend law school in Utah eventually. At the University of Washington, Bundy fell in love with a wealthy, pretty girl named Diane Edwards with long, dark hair. She had money, class, and influence, which is what he'd always been looking for.
Yeah.
But when the pair broke up, Bundy was absolutely devastated.
Well, he suddenly had that platform in life, didn't he?
Exactly.
And then it's taken away from him.
Yeah, so all of a sudden he's got everything he wanted and then it's gone.
And then you can see where this leads.
Yes. So by the mid-1970s, Bundy had become more outwardly confident, he was active socially, and he was very involved in political affairs. He actually received a letter of recommendation from the Republican governor of Washington after working on his campaign.
Oh.
Yeah. So Ted Bundy had become a charming, intelligent, confident man, even described as a rising star in Washington state politics. But
He's looking for influence.
yeah, this was all a facade. Otherwise, we just wouldn't be talking about him on Cars on the Macabre, would we?
Well, no.
But yeah, but it's interesting because you find that with other serial killers such as John Wayne Gacy. Mm-hmm. He was known to be sort of known in the local area, you know, within politics and things like that.
Yeah.
So that seems to be something that serial killers...
It's almost like a mask they're hiding behind.
Exactly. It's hiding in plain sight, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So, yeah. Now, there is some debate as to when Bundy actually started killing. Most sources report that he began his murderous rampage in 1974. However, criminologist Matt DeLisi argues that Bundy likely started killing in his adolescence because, quote, the pacing and confidence with which he's killing between 1974 and 1978 indicates there's no way this could have just started.
He was too refined.
Exactly, and the fact
For want of a better word.
The fact that his sort of darkness, as it were, was starting at age 3.
Yeah.
He was already kind of, you know, physically abusing other children. He was peeking in windows. He was killing mice. All this happened very early on. So to imagine that was happening, then there was nothing, then all of a sudden he started killing, actually, to me, doesn't make sense.
No, there needs to be sort of some sort of trajectory.
Exactly.
Trajectory. There we go.
So, you know, but again, it is with these cases, you know, as I'll go through to explain, this was a long time ago. This was in the 70s. It's not the same as now. And, you know, a lot of it is surmising and allegedly, but, you know, the person that Bundy was, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that he could have started killing a lot younger, because he was killing animals.
I think we see more frenzy killers, really, these days, perhaps, than sort of serial killers, perhaps.
And I think, obviously, everything is more documented early on.
Yeah.
Sort of now, whereas back then it would take them a while to sort of cotton on. So let's look at this monster's documented crimes first. So over a 4-year period in the 1970s, Bundy admitted to killing 36 women, but the death toll is thought to likely be in the hundreds. He was known to lure some of his victims into his VW Beetle by pretending to be injured and asking for their help. The VW Beetle was a clever tool to use because personally, I would never expect a narcissist, psychopathic killer to drive a bug.
No, it's like this fun little bubble car.
Exactly.
And you know, it's just unassuming.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anyone crazy to be driving a Beetle.
Well, you drove a Beetle.
I did. I drove a new Beetle.
I used to love that bug. And then you'd all have like that flower in the middle, and you used to, because there weren't that many around, every time you drove past someone driving another bug, you'd always wave at them.
Yes.
I remember doing that with you.
That's cool. I also had Elvis the bug was called Elvis, and I had an Elvis like dancing figure in the window.
And I have noticed all of your cars have the same smell.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it a nice smell?
It's like, oh, that's Helen's car smell.
Okay. All right. I think that's okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Hopefully that's an all right thing. Hi, Reggie. You all right? Little bat boy.
Yeah.
Okay, so, thinking about sort of like the whole fact of Bundy using a beetle, pretending to need help, pretending to be injured, all those sorts of things, he really was calculated and sneaky. And for example, he actually worked with the Seattle Crime Commission on their crimes against women issue, advising how women could avoid being raped.
The fucking...
Which, if you know what Bundy did, I mean, that's ludicrous. If you don't know what Bundy did, keep listening and it will become even more ludicrous.
The
audacity.
Yeah, the audacity.
But it shows his confidence. Arrogance. Which, again, so in the second episode, I will talk about all the things he's been listed as having wrong with him mentally.
Yeah.
And, it's stuff you can kind of guess. But, yeah, I mean, wow.
I mean, that blows my mind. Like, you wanker.
Yeah. See, I didn't know little bits like this.
No.
I knew he kind of worked in politics, but I didn't know, he was actually completely connected and involved.
Oh,
with
he is the
Seattle Crime
shit
Commission.
stain on the underwear of life, is he not?
He really is. And his time working alongside the department allowed him to see the holes in their methods of investigation, crime statistics, and what areas the police focused on and what they didn't.
So it's all working in his favour.
Yeah, this gave Bundy a huge advantage and basically allowed him to run with his depravity. So, he's got this facade of being this helpful person that's trying to help women to not be raped, even though he's a rapist. And then whilst he's got this facade, he's thinking, oh, they're not doing that. Oh, they're not looking over there. And so it's two faces, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's this kind of this part of it. The whole thing is scary. That part of it, the whole calculated, devious, evil nature of what he was doing behind the scenes and what he was thinking of, is
It breaks me to say, and I hate saying it, but he's fucking smart.
Oh, very clever, very clever.
Evil, clever, but
just criminal genius, unfortunately. Right, so on a side note, there is more information on some victims versus others. So some of them, I've got as much as I can on what happened to them, but some I just, I literally spend days researching this. And if I'd have spent any longer, we just wouldn't have an episode. So I've done what I can to sort of honour the victims. But I looked at so many different sources, and just for some reason, some are more well documented than others. So with that said, we have to start this horror somewhere. So on the 4th of January in 1974, whilst attending the University of, I don't know how you say this, Puget, 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 I'm going to call it Puget, sounds law school, Ted Bundy mercilessly beat 18-year-old Karen Sparks, a University of Washington student, at her Seattle home. Bundy snuck into her basement bedroom while she was sleeping and beat Sparks with a metal rod torn from the bed frame. He then raped her with the metal rod. Miraculously, Sparks actually survived this attack, but she suffered permanent brain damage after spending 10 days in a coma.
I think at that point, would you want to survive?
Well, when she woke up, she had no memory of the attack.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Well, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't want to remember, but then...
Yeah, the fact she survived that...
is insane. Like,
yeah.
But, what level was to what extent was the brain damage?
Well, she couldn't... she was in a coma for 10 days.
Yeah.
So, again, this is as much information as I can... Oh, so Goobs just said, what I said was Puget.
So
University
English
of
sounding.
Puget is actually pronounced Puget. Thanks, mate.
I like
I
Puget.
prefer Puget, but
Don't come for
it's
her.
our podcast. Don't come for us. This is how we talk.
Puget.
Puget.
It's all right. I'll slip some fen in there and make you sound smart again.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
Right, so his second documented victim on the 1st of February 1974 was 21-year-old Linda Ann Healy. She was another UW student who disappeared from her off-campus home. Healy was a popular student who also gave weather and ski reports at a local radio station, so she was well known. And initially, after being reported missing, police found blood on Healy's bedsheets and pillow, but there didn't seem to be enough to indicate that that's where she died.
Oh, okay. So
they
it could be
didn't-
like, oh, she might have, I don't know, cut herself.
I've seen some footage and pictures, and there was a significant amount to think, oh, what's gone on there?
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough to believe that she'd actually bled to death there at the scene on her own bed. So yeah, it's enough to be suspicious about.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's a lot of blood in the human body.
Yeah.
But so she bled to death on the bed? No.
No.
Oh, she didn't.
So that
okay.
no.
Yeah.
So there wasn't enough blood there to think that she had.
Okay.
And her nightgown, which had been hung up in the closet, had a ring of dried blood around the neck. And some of her clothes, her pillowcase, and her backpack were missing from where she lived. Her room was also in the basement, and Bundy was able to get in using a spare key they kept in their mailbox. Mm-hmm. Don't leave spare keys in mailboxes. It's thought that Healy would have been knocked unconscious, her pyjamas removed, and then she was redressed in fresh clothes, which is a bit strange. 3 days after her disappearance, it's reported that a man called 911 saying, "Listen, and listen carefully, the person who attacked that girl on the 8th of last month and the person who took Linda Healy away are one and the same. He was outside both houses. He was seen."
Oh, so he wasn't careful then?
It doesn't really seem like it.
But again, is that arrogance, cockiness?
Well, that's it. Was it him calling and just being like, I did this?
Oh, because he wants the attention.
Of course he does, yeah.
Yeah.
14 months after her disappearance, Healy's skull and jaw bones were found on Taylor Mountain, which was about an hour's drive from where she had disappeared.
So, scavengers.
Yes. Yes. We will later find that at Taylor Mountain, in this particular, he a lot of bits of bodies were found in this area. So then in March of 74, Donna Gail Manson, a 19-year-old student at Evergreen State College south of Seattle, disappeared on her way to a concert on campus. Her body was never discovered, but Bundy claimed to have burnt her skull in the fireplace at his then girlfriend's house. His girlfriend was called Elizabeth Klopfer. What's that, babe?
I have a question, but I can't form the question.
Okay. Do you want a minute or?
Does that seem like the MO's changed? Because he didn't use fire in the first two, but then you're not really considered as, I suppose, a serial killer is 3 or more victims, so maybe you're establishing what you prefer. Maybe?
Also, and as I mentioned before, there's not extensive information on all these people.
Yeah, that's true.
So he could have done that. He could have burned other bits of bodies, and when they were found, it was bones. So it might not have been completely clear what had happened to all of them.
Yeah, I think there'd be.
And I mean, again, he claimed to have burnt her skull in the fireplace.
So I'd like to say there'd be evidence of burning.
Well, her body was never discovered. So nothing was discovered.
I promise I'm listening.
Nothing was discovered to allow them to test anything. This is just him claiming he'd burnt her skull. There's no evidence to suggest he'd done that. It's Bundy, so... So on the 17th of April of that same year, 18-year-old Susan Elaine Rancourt disappeared from Central Washington State College, which was east of Seattle. She was studious and hardworking, working 2 full-time jobs to pay for her tuition.
Oh, God.
After putting laundry on, she headed to a meeting that she regularly attended. Apparently, Rancourt planned to see a German film with her friends afterwards. But after the meeting, she disappeared, so she never got to the film with her friends.
Okay.
Her clothes were found still in the washing machine, and despite a massive search, she wasn't found. Later, evidence came to light that a man fitting Bundy's description, with his arm in a sling, had approached other female students that night. So we're seeing this, where he pretends he's injured. Can you help me?
He's
I need a
preying on
hand.
the natural nurturing characteristics of a female, really. Then isn't it?
Well, also,
help me.
just depending on the fact that normal people are friendly and nice and helpful.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm quite cynical, and I often think, I take people with a pinch of salt to begin with. I think that's from working in the prison service, to be fair.
Yeah.
I'm quite a cynical person.
Well, also just knowing people.
Yeah.
Because people can be shit.
Yeah, they can be. And I've dealt with a lot of shit people in my life, so yeah.
But, the fact that he's on the same night, he's been approaching several people.
Well, yeah.
He's obviously not being that careful about the fact that it's not like he's going around dressed in black and all stealth. He's got his arm in a sling going, can you help me?
Yeah, it's distinctive.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that's just cockiness.
Oh, completely. Yeah, it's complete arrogance. It's just... So we're starting to see a pattern with, obviously female students, they're all roughly the same age, obviously from the sort of similar area. And on the 6th of May, Roberta Kathleen Parks disappeared from Oregon State University, somewhere between her dorm room and a coffee shop where her friends were waiting for her. Bundy later claimed that he saw Parks near the coffee shop and persuaded her to go with him to a bar. After they got into his VW Beetle, he tied Parks up, gagged her, and drove her back to Washington to be killed, raped her twice on the way, and then murdered her. Parks' skull was later discovered, among others, again at Taylor Mountain in Washington.
God, she's gorgeous, isn't she?
And I will bring this up later on, but all his victims very similar looking.
Yeah,
very similar looking. In June of 1974, Bundy struck twice in the same month, on the 1st of June and then the 11th, killing 22-year-old Brenda Carroll Ball and Georgianne Hawkins. Brenda Ball was last seen at 2 a.m. outside the Flame Tavern, which is south of Seattle, talking to a man with his arm in a sling, fitting Bundy's description. Bundy claimed he brought Ball back to his house where they had consensual sex in a consensual sexual encounter, which is unlikely.
Oh, he's a rapist.
Given that he's a rapist. He then strangled her while she was sleeping. It's thought that she suffered blunt force trauma to her head as well, because 6 months later, forestry students discovered Brenda's skull on Taylor Mountain again, approximately 30 miles from the location she disappeared, and her skull showed damage, but Bundy didn't explain that part of it. It's funny. He gives some information about some stuff, not about others.
It's like picking and choosing.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's got again, for want of a better term, like the favourite bits.
Well, and also I think it's another act of control. It's like, I'll give you this tidbit, but I'm not going to tell you that.
I'm just going to tease
exactly, yeah. 18-year-old Georgianne Hawkins vanished while walking down a brightly lit alley between her boyfriend's dormitory and her student house. The following morning, despite 3 Seattle homicide detectives and a criminalist searching the entire alleyway on their hands and knees, they found nothing. Bundy later told investigators that he lured Hawkins to his car and knocked her unconscious using a crowbar. He handcuffed and drove her 20 miles east of Seattle, where he strangled her and spent the entire night with her body. It's important to note here that Ted Bundy was a necrophiliac. So it's likely that he raped Hawkins' dead body if he spent the entire night with it.
That's a whole different breed, isn't it?
Oh, this is why I had to put such a severe trigger warning on this, because he is all of the evils in one person.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And, you know, coming from someone who has worked and continues to work with the deceased, you got to be all kinds of insane to want to do something like that.
I mean, to begin with, his crimes are horrific, and he just seems to just get more disgusting.
It's like you said earlier, he's depraved.
He is very depraved, and because he was very selective with the information he was telling people, and a lot of the information he didn't actually reveal until he was just about to go in the electric chair. And again, he picked and chose the information. He could have done that to all of the dead bodies, but he only admitted to some, and he only admitted to that part of it before he was about to die. So, you know, the actual kind of depths of his depravity we'll probably never know.
Well, no.
Because it kind of died with him.
It's the thing, you can study and study and study.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you'll ever get to a definitive reason or definitive reasoning behind some people's actions and thought processes.
He gets so much more arrogant. So Bundy then returned to the scene of the crime the next day, and despite being in the midst of a major investigation, he managed to locate Hawkins' earrings and one of her shoes from the adjoining parking lot, then left without being seen.
I just need to hit something right now.
So the fact that he has the audacity to go back and do this, but then he's not caught. So obviously that's going to add to his arrogance and his
ego.
His ego.
But also feed into the fact that I'm invincible.
And this is all adding to it.
Yeah.
Bundy also admits later revisiting Hawkins' corpse on 3 occasions.
To rape it?
Yeah. Honestly,
this is just the words I've
this
got.
is the worst case I've ever
Do you know what?
had to study.
A lot of people, you know, when you say, not who's your favourite serial killer, but the one that, you know, that sort of fascinates, or the case that fascinates the most, will say Bundy. And I didn't realise the depth of it. And I was always like, no, like, for whatever reason, I never got people's fascination. Not the
intrigue, but just because of the layers of his absolute evil kind of actions.
I don't think I was fully aware.
No.
Intrigue, like, because he is the devil.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, you know, you could have a podcast solely on Bundy and his crimes.
Yeah.
It's actually quite tricky to get it into a couple of episodes where you're doing the victims justice, you're getting across his absolute insanity, depravity, and pure evil.
That's kind of what needs to be done as well, is like, yes, we're here to talk about true crime and what happens, but, you know, the victims, it needs to come back round to these are the people that lost their lives and should not have lost their lives.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the very unfortunate thing, that with these serial killers, they become the
focus.
Evil focus and the star, for want of a better word, and the victims do sort of fall into the background, which is tragic, and that isn't the way it should be. But at the end of the next episode, I am going to talk about some books and other places and things written by survivors and things like that people can watch, read. Yeah. Because, again, I could only fit so much into these 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, I don't want to talk about him that much. but, you know, is trying to get across how bad he was.
That's the thing. He'd love like the amount of podcasts or TV shows or documentaries done about him, wouldn't he?
Disgusting. He won't when I talk about how he dies, because I obviously will talk about that in the second episode. But so I'm going to have to carry on, I'm afraid. There are more. So on the 14th of July in 1974, 23-year-old Janice Ott and 18-year-old Denise Mashind, M-A-S-H-I-N-D, Mashind, went missing within a 3-hour time frame.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like ramping
Fucking
up the crazy.
bold.
So Janice was abducted from Lake, oh God, I knew how to say this and I should have written it down. Lake Sammamish State Park in broad daylight. She was last seen leaving the park with Bundy, who had asked her to help him put his sailboat on his car. Again, he had his arm in a sling.
I mean, for starters, why would you be out on a sailboat if you've only got one arm that you can use?
That's the thing, he's preying on people's kindness.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people won't. Obviously, we listen to and watch a lot of true crime. So that's the first thing we would think is, oh my God, you're a serial killer.
Yeah.
But back then, don't forget, the term serial killer was either not used or was only just coming to light as a thing.
It's the thing.
So
I think it
people
started off
wouldn't
with
have
like
thought about that.
sequence killer or something, didn't they?
Yeah. So initially, Bundy tried his luck with another young woman, but when she approached his Volkswagen Beetle and there was no sailboat in sight, and he said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, it's at my folks' house, just to jump up the hill," she bolted.
Oh, well done.
Imagine being that woman.
Yeah. Fucking, you'd be like, shit. But then you'd also probably have massive survivor's guilt.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. The victims are not, you know, it's not the names that are written down of people who he took the lives from. It's people who he attempted to do this to, people that are connected with the victims. Like, it just goes out like a massive evil firework of just horrid...
It's a ripple.
It's a ripple effect of just vileness.
Is your arm all right? I heard that.
Yes, sorry, these are new chairs and I keep forgetting we've got these armrests. They're very nice chairs though. So the same woman later saw Bundy again in conversation with another woman in the same area. She reported the sighting to the police, describing the man as having sandy blonde hair, being 5'10", 160 pounds, and he had a brown VW Bug. Using his information, they commissioned a sketch of the suspect. I've seen the sketch, doesn't look anything like him. And the same description did match that of an injured Ted, seen many times where several other women had gone missing. He's not even disguising his name. He is saying he is Ted. That's how brazen he is.
It just boggles the mind.
Wanker.
Absolute wanker. He is... just trash.
So you're yeah. See,
How?
so we've got some of the sort of sketches on the screen in front of us, and actually his facial features do kind of look like him, but the sandy blonde hair not. So I'm wondering if he was wearing a wig because his hair was dark. So I don't know, but I mean, I wouldn't see that and think, oh yeah, that's Ted Bundy.
Well, no, definitely no.
Right. Okay, you're about to get more angry. Right, but the police had no idea how close they'd actually come to this killer. As well as previous post advising the Seattle Crime Commission, Bundy worked on Seattle's suicide hotline. His colleague, Anne Rule, even reported her suspicions about Bundy to the police after seeing the sketch they'd commissioned. And despite Ted looking similar... and the fact that he drove a bronze or tan VW Beetle, this wasn't followed up.
Of course not. Of course it fucking wasn't. Can you imagine that? I'm going to say it. That cunt on a suicide hotline.
I mean, again, the audacity, he's just ego. He's just a disgusting, vile creature. So, right, sorry, we've got to go back into it. Bundy claims that he drove Janice Ott to a secluded cabin 2 to 3 miles from Lake Sammamish, where he repeatedly raped her, handcuffed her, and knocked her unconscious before returning to the lake. He later returned to the cabin with the other lady, Denise Naslund, his second victim that day. He claims that Ott regained consciousness, then he raped and murdered Naslund in front of her before killing Ott too. Denise Naslund was with her boyfriend and another couple at the lake and went missing in broad daylight when she went to the restroom. So it's not like she's in a particularly spooky area. She's literally at the lake where loads of people are sunbathing and, you know, going about their business. She went to the toilet and he nabbed her.
How the hell does that happen?
It's just, oh God.
Do you know, that's the thing, it just takes a fucking second, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's just so scary. So scary. So taking a brief break between victims, I wanted to highlight the fact that Bundy clearly had an MO, or modus operandi, but police departments just weren't communicating with each other. So despite all the disappearances and the similarities, nothing was recognised as a pattern at the time.
Yeah, because, well...
I mean, it was, but it took a while. It really did take a while for them to cotton on and start communicating with each other.
Because there being like several sort of areas, if you will.
Yeah.
You'd be like, okay, this is what we're looking out for, etc., etc.
No. The different jurisdictions just weren't talking to each other.
Was there? Did they have that thing sort of like an all points bulletin? Did they just not put those kinds of things out?
They just didn't have that kind of thing at the time. Eventually, they did all start to communicate and share information, but at this time, you know, and this just fuels his ego, fuels the fact that he thinks he's, you know, absolutely untouchable.
Playing God.
Oh, completely playing God, which obviously we saw evidence of when he was a child, which just makes me agree with, was it the doctor of the criminology who said that they believe he was killing way before this.
Yeah, you don't get to that level without having...
Returning to crime scenes, taking 2 people in one day. This isn't somebody who's just started killing.
No.
And it's only, you know, it's the...
seasoned professional.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I think. Just for those who don't know what MO means, the modus operandi, a Latin phrase meaning mode of operating, is an identifying characteristic or behavioural pattern that we use to identify somebody through the way they commit a crime. It's how investigators begin the luminary process of narrowing down the field of potential suspects based on whether or not the details of the crime fits their modus operandi. It's definitely important to note that some characteristics of an MO can change over time. However, the basic characteristics of a consistent method often remain and can be a reliable indicator as to if a suspect could be connected. And this information is taken directly from the University of Bolton, as in UK.
Our Bolton.
Our Bolton. So I just thought that was, because you watch a lot of true crime and listen to podcasts and things and you hear people say MO a lot.
Yeah.
That's what an MO is. I know we know that, but not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And I feel like...
Sometimes we take...
Goober didn't know.
Did you not?
So we've educated one person.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fabulous.
I knew what it meant, but not what it meant.
Yeah. So
yeah.
the general
You know what an
idea
MO
of it,
is, but not in depth. You don't know the details of it, essentially.
You didn't know what it stood for.
Yeah.
Okay. Fab.
So that's the thing, you kind of take for granted the little things we do know.
Yeah.
Like things like that. It's like, oh, actually, let me just...
I love things that come from Latin. So much comes from Latin as well. I find it interesting.
It does.
So, right, as I've just explained what an MO is, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bundy's MO, because, again, we need a little bit of a break from his killings, even though we're talking about his killings. So the following is taken directly from an online source. Bundy's MO evolved in organisation and sophistication over time, as is typical of serial killers, according to FBI experts. Early on, it consisted of forcible late-night entry, followed by a violent attack with a blunt weapon on a sleeping victim. As his methodology evolved, he became progressively more organised in his choice of victims and crime scenes. He would employ various ruses designed to lure his victims to the vicinity of his vehicle, where he had pre-positioned a weapon, usually a crowbar. In many cases, he wore a plaster cast on one leg or a sling on one arm, and sometimes hobbled on crutches, then requested assistance in carrying something to his vehicle. Bundy was regarded as handsome and charismatic, traits he exploited to win the confidence of his victims and the people around him in his daily life. Ted lured females, Mitchell wrote, the way a lifeless silk flower can dupe a honeybee. He would sometimes approach females pretending to be an authority figure or a firefighter. And once Bundy had them near or inside his vehicle, he would overpower and bludgeon them and then restrain them with handcuffs. He would then transport them to a pre-selected secondary site, often a considerable distance away, and then rape them during ligature and strangulation. In the case of his Utah victims, which we will go into, the secondary site would be his apartment building. Toward the end of his spree in Florida, perhaps under the stress of being a fugitive, he regressed to indiscriminate attacks on sleeping women. While he is often said to have been a torturer, and biographer Anne Rule in particular regarded him as a sadistic sociopath. I would definitely call him a sociopath, absolutely, who took pleasure in human suffering. Bundy disputed these claims in one of his conversations with Mitchell, insisting that he never deliberately tortured any of those he killed and that the murders had no sadistic focus on enjoyment derived from the infliction of pain or injury. To the contrary, he claimed he went out of his way to mitigate his victims' physical torment.
Oh, excuse me, miss. I'm going to kill you, but I'll make sure that you're comfortable.
Yeah, so what about raping them?
Oh, good. Fucking...
God's sake.
Fucking plum Bundy.
Though he also told Hagemeyer that he would pose his victims to recreate detective magazine covers. He was just, I'm sorry, but he was just a raving fucking lunatic.
Absolute lunatic, yeah. And, you know, I hope that he is being stuck with so many needles in hell.
Yeah.
And so much pain has been inflicted and inconvenience.
I hope that somebody... Oh, you're right, Reggie. Reggie's just coughing. I hope that somebody in a fucking VW Beetle is driving over and reversing consistently over his penis.
I concur. And his face.
And his face.
Because he thought he was handsome, and I disagree.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier. I don't agree that he was handsome.
He's got fucking crazy eyes.
He has got crazy eyes. He to me, he looks like a murderer. Whether that's because we know he's a murderer or not, I mean... I can see why people maybe might compare him to other people. He didn't... Okay, so he was relatively clean-cut and well-dressed.
Yes.
He didn't look like some sort of monstrous hobo. He looked like a professional man.
Yeah.
So maybe that... Well, it obviously did lure people to a false sense of security.
He just is fucking garbage.
Diabolical. I'm going to continue with his disgusting MO.
Okay.
At secondary sites, Bundy would remove and later burn the victim's clothing, or, in at least one case, Cunningham's, deposit them in a Goodwill collection bin. I know, nasty. He explained that the clothing removal was ritualistic, but also a practical matter as it minimised the chance of leaving trace evidence at the crime scene that could implicate him.
Can you imagine buying those clothes? Like, if you found out they were one of his victims, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I suppose there's no real way of knowing.
I would be like, I don't know what to do. Bleach?
Well, it wouldn't be intentional, so I don't feel like...
No. Like, I would feel awful.
You wouldn't have done it like, oh, I'm going to buy these dead person's clothes.
No. No, but that would just be all kinds of weird.
Oh, it would be awful. So, a manufacturing error in fibres from his own clothing, ironically, provided a crucial incriminating link to the Leech killing, which I'll talk about later on. He often revisited his secondary crime scenes to engage in acts of necrophilia and to groom or dress up the cadavers. Some victims were found wearing articles of clothing that they had never worn or nail polish and family members had never seen.
I mean, are we a little bit Norman Bates?
We're a little bit of all of the things.
All of the things.
Just all of the fucking depravity and evil. Bundy also took Polaroid photos of many of his victims. He's quoted as saying, and this will make you want to punch stuff and throw up, "When you work hard to do something right," he told Hagemeyer, "you don't want to forget it." I know. Consumption of large quantities of alcohol was an essential component, he told both Keppel and Mitchoud. He needed to be extremely drunk while on the prowl in order to significantly diminish his inhibitions and to sedate the dominant personality that he feared might prevent his inner entity from acting on his impulses.
I call bullshit.
Absolute
bullshit. Fucking bollocks to that.
That's just like, oh, I've got a voice and I've got an entity. No, you don't. You're just a cunt.
Thank you. End of period. Full stop.
Exactly. All of Bundy's known victims were white females, most of whom were from middle class backgrounds. Almost all were between the ages of 15 and 25, and most were college students.
15.
Yeah. He apparently never approached anyone he might have met before. In their last conversation before his execution, Bundy told his girlfriend, Klopfer, he had purposely stayed away from her when he felt the power of his sickness building in him. Rule noted that most of the identified victims had long, straight hair, parted in the middle. Most of the girl's hair was dark. There was one who was blonde. Like Diane Edwards, the woman who rejected him, and to whom he later became engaged and then rejected in return.
Oh.
Rule speculated that Bundy's animosity towards his first girlfriend triggered his protracted rampage and caused him to target victims who resembled her.
Oh dear. Did you get a broken heart?
Poor Bundy.
Poor Ted.
Oh,
poor Theodore.
Spit on your grave. Bundy dismissed this hypothesis, saying they just fit the general criteria of being young and attractive. He told Ainsworth, "Too many people have bought this crap that all girls were similar, but almost everything was dissimilar. Physically, they were almost all different." Well, that's nonsense because they all look very similar.
And also your bodies are going to be different, but features like the long, straight, dark hair parted in the middle.
All similar age, all college students, all like white women. But he did concede that youth and beauty were, quote, absolutely indispensable criteria in his choice of victims. And that's where I'm going to leave part one, because I can't talk about Bundy anymore for a minute.
Oh, yeah, I think... I don't know, I kind of want to bleach my ears.
But I was just about to say, do you want to bleach your brain or something?
Bleach my brain, wash my ears, something.
So just to summarise, so we've sort of gone through his first lot of documented victims, his MO, his childhood. So you know, if you don't know that much about Bundy, you're definitely getting a picture of him.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we've said, we both knew about him. We didn't know the depths of his...
The extent.
Absolute depravity.
I think that's a word for this, isn't it? It's depraved, depravity.
I mean, and if you want to find a way of getting through these episodes, you could drink every time we say depravity.
Yeah, you can turn it into a drinking game.
Yeah, and
I mean,
also-
it's not healthy, but...
It's not, but I feel like it's needed for this.
I mean, I brought some trip drinks downstairs that are CBD infused, and I think I might need one just to fucking chill out after this.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's just the first half, and that's honestly not the worst of it.
Oh, God. No,
So
I'm learning more than
You
I
ever
thought I
wanted to
would.
know.
Well, more than I ever wanted to know, but more than I thought I would.
yeah.
He's an onion.
Oh, the layers.
The layers.
And the thing is, because there's so much when it comes to information in documentaries online, literally everything. There's so much information on him, and a lot of it is kind of almost in an argument with the rest of it. So some things say one thing, some things say another. Some dates are wrong, some names are wrong. So you have to look at so much stuff to try and get
The facts.
the common denominators and the facts, which hopefully I've done. But like I said, I'm gonna at the end of part 2, I'm going to recommend some things to read and watch if you really want to know. Not necessarily more about him because he's an arsehole, but more about his victims and actually, you know, just the monstrosity of his rampage of killings because it had such a huge impact.
That's the thing. I think we get lost in the absolute lunacy of one person that we forget the people that succumbed. No, not succumbed. Sorry, that were, you know,
Victimised by him.
But yeah, and like,
I know.
ugh.
I'm going to go straight into random fact time to try and bleach your brain. Would you like me to start? I know Goober's got one.
Yeah, you start.
Okay, so I used to have a cat with 6 toes.
Did you?
Yeah.
What?
She was called Lizzie. This was before you were born, though, so you wouldn't have remembered her. She was called Lizzie. She was a ginger cat, and she had an extra little toe on each paw. She was really cute.
Oh, Lizzie.
I know, right? Yeah.
Baby girl.
She was so cute.
Oh, I've never even heard you speak about Lizzie.
Oh, we've honestly, don't get me into the trauma of dead pets. This is for another episode.
Yeah, I can say I've got, like, I swear I recall a memory of you saying you basically lived in a pet cemetery.
This is so random. I was talking to your mum about this in the week.
Oh, yeah.
So many of my pets died. We had to have a pet cemetery in the garden. Trauma, I'm telling you. Anyway.
Your mother's not Ted Bundy, is she?
Well, no. One thing, she would never hurt animals.
No,
She
I
is
know that for a fact.
animal lover. Ing
Yes.
loves her animals.
Ing does love her animals.
She
And,
does.
well, it's because of Ing that I had Josh.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Josh the dog.
Oh, I miss him. Right, so... Because I'm not all about getting the sads right now.
No, let's not. It's been too much already.
My random fact is that I share a birthday, the day and the month, not the year, with Cisco.
I love
The thong
that.
song singer. The thong
That is
song.
so random. That makes me very happy.
That's my my claim to fame.
I love it. That's brilliantly random.
Thank
In
you.
fact, these are probably the 2 most random facts we've had so far, I reckon.
Yeah, mine have been all kind of like, oh, I'm a uni student. And
Mine
it's
are
just
all
a bit shit.
vapid, like
Vegas.
Vegas, or I bumped into Cillian Murphy, or my boyfriend was in a band who I went out with when I was like 12 for like 2 days.
So it wasn't in a band then. So
No, it
does
wasn't even in a band, then, so it's rubbish.
Oh, yeah. So my boyfriend's in a band.
Yes, your boyfriend is in a band. Very
And
good.
before he was in this band, he was once in an 80s hair metal parody band. The full work, so wigs, sorry, I just knocked them like spandex, bandanas, jewellery. They're still going now. And, you know, actually Mark's new band did actually play a gig with them.
No.
Yeah. And it was great. I mean, I've seen pictures and he looks fucking fabulous.
I need to see pictures or it didn't happen.
Oh, you will see pictures. It's just amazing. So they're called Iron Fist.
Fab.
Sorry, my eye is leaking from laughing. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and in your bushes.
Amazing.
So
love it.
they all had character names. Mark was German, and his name was Wilhelm Spitz, not swallows. And he did an accent.
Brilliant.
And he said one day, oh, I'm so sorry about my eye. He said one day that he was, so we live near a place called Waterbeach. He was going to dress up in Speedos, armbands, a snorkel, and a little rubber dinghy round him and go to Waterbeach. And in his German accent, I don't think I should try, but where is the Wasser? Where is the beach? He didn't do it. I still think he should.
That's incredible. I need to see photos. Right, well, that's brilliant. That's something we can do to alleviate our brains from the horror.
Do you know what? He really suits it.
That's a really cool photo. We're just looking at some photos on our monitor, and you look awesome.
He
Very, very cool.
There's a really good one for Mark's birthday last year. We went on a cruise with our friends Aaron and Sophie.
Brilliant.
And they had T-shirts made up, and on it is Mark laying down, like, on his front with like his white skinny jeans and cowboy boots and this hair and wig and bandana and everything on it. It looks so good.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah, it's that photo.
incredible.
Sorry, it's not white skinny jeans, but are they leopard print?
Why you... I
Snake
suppose
print,
you probably
snake
don't
print.
have time with everything else you do to be in that band as well as...
But I am going to say we will post a photo.
Yeah,
on
we have to.
Instagram.
Just remind me to do it because obviously I forget things.
Because if anything's going to bring you joy, it's that.
This is the palette cleanser.
I'm so sorry, my
It's all right,
eye.
babe. It's fine.
That is the palette cleanser. Is Mark being a sexy 80s hair metal bassist?
That is honestly the best photo I've ever seen.
Yeah,
That's brilliant.
you can see why I'm with him, can't you?
Absolutely. And I mean, that leads us on to say thank you very much, Mark, Park Lane Studios, for bringing us sound that is oh so professional, even when my reading skills are not.
And I just gawp at you the entire time because I forget if I want to say anything or
You can.
I don't know what to say.
That's absolutely. And we had Reggie. Thank you, Reggie.
Thank you,
You are
Reggie.
covered in dog hair now. That's
I
his
am.
present
It's
to
all
you.
up my nose and in my face. I think that's what's in my eye.
Probably. So
And thanks to the ice cream van.
thanks to the ice cream van for making all the noise and to Molly for making all the noise. Make sure that you like, subscribe, download. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen on all the podcasting places.
Yeah.
But make sure that you download, otherwise the points don't count. Then we don't get prizes.
Points mean prizes.
They really do. And so we'll be along next week for the second part of the hideousness that is Ted Bundy. And for now, thank you and
Stay spooky, bitches.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.